Information session for August the 15th, Montgomery County Commission. I'm going to ask Commissioner Walker to lead us in a word of prayer.
Father, we just thank you for this moment, and we just all take a deep breath, and all the things that are on our mind, the hectic morning we've had, the stressful news that we've received, the aches and pains that we feel in our heart and in our body and our mind and our spirit. Father, we just surrender all of that to you right now, and that we will just relax and rejuvenate ourselves to where we can focus on the business at hand for the people of Montgomery County. We thank you for the privilege of serving the public and being stewards of the public money and the public trust. We ask that you always hold us accountable, that the Holy Spirit reveal things in our heart that shouldn't be there, in our mind that shouldn't be there, Father, and that you will lead, guide, and direct us in everything that we do as we pick up our cross every single day and follow you. Amen.
Amen.
Good morning. This morning we will hear from Sheriff Cunningham. We'll hear from Susan Kennedy and Terry Reynolds regarding ARPA funds, and Director of Elections Alexandria Stevens. The items to be considered during the formal session are a lease agreement for Children's Policy Council Health and Literacy Fair for the juvenile court, contracts for housing juveniles at the Montgomery County Youth Facility for Autauga, Butler, Chilton, and Elmore counties, an agreement with ALDOT and the City of Montgomery concerning funding for widening, relocation, and traffic signal installation on Wasden Road, FY 2024 Annual Transportation Plan per Rebuild Alabama Act, termination of the MG Mix Memorandum of Understanding between the City of Montgomery and the Montgomery County Commission. We will consider miscellaneous appropriations to agencies. Does anyone have anything to add? Consider miscellaneous appropriations to education with the addition of $1,000 from Chairman Singleton for Pike Road High School for the cheerleading program. Consider miscellaneous appropriations from designated revenue with the addition of $2,250 from Chairman Singleton for the Tuskegee United Women League.
Lawrence, we need to discuss a couple from the joint, and I don't have them in front of me now, but I know the Samaritan Council, something we've done in the past, and I'm not prepared for that, but I know they've made a request again. Has everybody seen that request? It came from Kerry Coleman.
Yeah, I think, you know, they've, every year for the last 5 or 6 years, they've come with that request. And I thought one of the things we were trying to do was to not to, I mean, I think we're probably in their budget as a source of income.
Yeah, we got a bunch of those, yeah.
No, we don't have a bunch of them because
we do a lot of them.
we avoid them. We avoid doing that. Try to avoid doing that. You know, it's in my district, but I don't know if we could fund them at that level every year.
I know
with all the organizations that come before us asking us for money.
They've gone from 10 to 20, and I think back to 10. I think it's fluctuated a little bit.
Well, we had something, I remember seeing that request.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, Mr. Chairman, I would propose that we give them $10,000 out of the joint, and then individual commissioners can contribute from their own funds, should they choose, which I would choose to do.
Is everybody okay with a 10 from the joint today, and then if if you want to contribute from individual today, or you want to consider it further, we can do the 10 today jointly and do the individuals now, or at the next meeting, or later meetings.
Commissioner Harris, I think some time ago we talked about their overall goals and objectives, Samaritan Council, and I understand that you were supposed to be going by there.
I did.
What did you have a report or anything, just a summary, please?
There was a lot of stuff that they just wouldn't let me see and wouldn't tell me, as if to say it's none of your business. So, you know, a lot of questions I asked, I just didn't get answers to.
Yes.
But, I mean, it seemed to be a pretty nice operation, and they see a lot of people, and they do good work, you know, but my concerns weren't addressed that day.
When were you able to go by there, Commissioner Harris?
Was earlier this year.
Okay, because I know in the past you've been very supportive and complimentary of them.
I'm supportive of it, but like I said, I asked some of my questions weren't answered. And it was like, we don't keep that kind of information, or whatever. But my point is, I'm saying the work that they do is needed, it's valuable work, and I think they're good at what they do, you know, and I think that if we're gonna fund them, let's fund them individually.
Well, we gave 20,000 last year, was 10 from joint and 2 from each commissioner for 20. And then in 21, it was a total of 10, just 10 from the joint, and then 10 from Dean, Singleton, Harrison, Walker. And then in 2020, it was 20,000 total, 2,500 from Dean and Singleton, 5 from Walker, and 10 from Harris.
So you can see what my support level's been.
Yeah, it's been there.
Matter of fact, I'm the first one to do it. And I think it was you, Commissioner Walker, that kind of warned against having these organizations come back year after year expecting to be funded.
We have certainly all been on the bandwagon
But
to
that's
encourage people to
that's
stop
what
doing that.
That's where I'm coming from on this.
I'm fine with doing it individually.
Yeah, and that's what I would support us doing and communicating. That.
As long as we can be consistent with this policy, I'm for it. And I would give, if we're going to do it individually, Florence, I'll do 5,000 for Samaritan counseling from my agency, please.
Now, we do have some joint revenue that we have consistently giving as a group together, so I'm still in favor of giving 10 from the joint, as we've done in the past.
Mr. Chairman, it seems like we, again, need some policies. I know we talk a lot about what we're going to do and how we're going to change, and that just seems to be a lot of rhetoric, you know, year after year. It would be nice to have something in writing, really, to say how we go about deciding who's going to get funded, what are their overall goals and objectives, and have they met those goals and objectives. Other funding organizations, I think about the Central Alabama Community Foundation. There's criteria that they have in place to decide, you know, just who's going to be funded, and they have to meet, those recipients have to meet certain criteria in terms of measurable goals and objectives and outcomes. And we talk about it, but we hadn't put anything together yet, so that would certainly be a recommendation coming from me.
Well,
Yeah, you know.
Well, wait a minute. I think that recommendation needs to be qualified. If you're talking about spending the joint funds, then fine. But if you're talking about our individual discretionary funds, then I don't need anybody on this commission telling me how to spend that money.
Thank you, Commissioner Harris. You're right. I was actually referring to the joint. Thank you, sir, for that clarification.
You know, during the budget hearings, we had tried to go through all these. I got Teresa to provide that information for me, all the historical ones we've done in the past, and looked at each one of them to try to decide during the budget hearing period on what we're going to fund in the future going forward. But for today, my recommendation is that we do 10 from the joint, and then individuals can do whatever they want to do. Are we okay with that, or y'all just want to go straight individuals? Carmen?
You know, I'm with Commissioner, I'm gonna say it on the record, so you can never say I didn't say this. I'm with Commissioner Sankey on this. I agree wholeheartedly that we need to start putting something in place, and looking at these a little closer than, what we're doing. But today, I understand they've already put in, I understand that, we are wanting to go ahead and do this, do the 10 from the joint and then split it. Everybody else can do whatever they want to do on their own. But then further, we need to start looking at a policy to create.
Yeah, I would love to do that again. I tried to introduce that at one of the budget hearings. I know last year's budget hearing, trying to go through every one of them. And let's make a decision on, which ones we want to, going forward, we want to fund jointly. Individually, you can do whatever you want, but, jointly, but, so are we okay today to do 10 from the joint?
How many other, I know we're considering one thing at a time, Mr. Chairman, but are there any other names you have on that list?
I don't have my list with me, and shame on me, I left the list. I know Samaritan one that popped in my head. I don't know if anybody else is still hanging out there, but
Joy to Life has sent a request to the group, and Women in Training has sent a
Women in Training
request
is
to the
one,
group.
yeah. That's another one that,
So
that's
that's
sent.
3.
Yeah.
And I think that Women in Training has a representative here today. And
Okay.
so just wondering
We
what
can-
we
yeah.
might want to do about that.
And that should be another thing we may need to look at. People need to come, if they're gonna come and ask us for money, then they may need to come see us in person to ask us for money, instead of keep sending us emails, and come and talk, and just like the, Ms. Bennett with a woman in training, she came in person. So we need to start requiring maybe people to come in person and tell us what they need and talk to us and
Well,
show us.
Yeah, my fault on Samaritan, because I told him, he asked if he could come today, and I said, let me
Okay.
run it, because if we all agree on it, there's no need for them to come if we're all in support of the organization through the joint. But I can get somebody from the Samaritan to come. So let's just table that one until, let's just table the Samaritan, and maybe we can get a representative to come next meeting to talk with us.
You don't have to
Okay.
table it on my account.
Okay.
I'm okay with what you, the 10,000.
You okay? All right, well, let's do 10 from the
With
joint,
that.
Florence.
You know.
And
but-
Florence, I'll do, if we're doing 10 from the joint, I'll do 3 from mine. And I would encourage, my entire tenure on the Montgomery County Commission, we have struggled with this very issue. And I know at different times, I have proposed an internal policy for joint funds. I know Commissioner Sankey has proposed an internal policy for joint funds, and neither of those were received by the entire commission. So so we agree, I think we all agree, we need a better policy and procedure. So maybe if each of us would jot down some thoughts on how we might be better, handle better that joint funds, and then we can have a conversation about it. We all want to do it, but we've never been able to agree on how to do it.
Why don't we, then the ones who want to get it done, why don't you put forth proposals?
That's a great idea.
I mean, because I'm all right with the way it is, but I'm willing to look at what you're proposing to do, because it's all really vague what you're talking about until you put it in writing.
Okay, just making sure.
Let's put it in writing and
You
we'll
know,
go from there.
Well, some of these, they come every year, and we normally just say, okay, we gave you 5 last year, we'll give you 5 this year. I would love for us to be able to all sit down again and go through every one of those before the budget year for 2024's budget set. And if we do receive the donated revenue that we're pulling this money from, then we already have a plan going forward that these are the ones that we are going to continue to support, and the level we're going to support them. I made a comment last budget hearing, not this year, but the year before. I would love to take some of these that we historically have been, say, funding at a certain level and reduce it a little bit, because it's just kind of gotten to be a budget line item, basically, because we know they know they're gonna get the money every year. I was in favor of trying to reduce some sum, because we have so many other great nonprofits that come to us, and I'd love to be able to, spread the love out a little bit. Many of these programs came to us when they started just to try to get them off the ground, and then it's just involved into that, it's just become a recurring thing every
But
year.
I think that's just the point. I mean, back in 2008, during the Great Recession, we took all but one or two. There used to be a group of nonprofits in the budget, and they were all taken out of the budget, and only a few left in. And on each occasion, we've determined over the years, we weren't going to add them back in. And we did not want an organization to come to a point where they depend on in us as a source of income annually. We don't want that to happen because we're not in the business of funding nonprofits on a regular basis unless they're in our budget. And that's what we were trying to do. But certain of these organizations, and Samaritan is one, that every year is back for the same thing. And they've been getting it, and other organizations have not. They come and they say, well, either greatly reduced or nothing this year. We've done it that way. But I'm in favor, I'm willing to look at the proposals in terms of how we should deal with the designated funds and the funds that are joint. I'd like to see it and get some kind of organization to it.
Yeah, I mean.
But I don't want any organization to, even the people that I support from my discretionary funds, I try to communicate to them that this is not something you can count on every year, because it may or may not be here. I don't even know if I'm going to have it. We don't know if we're going to have the money.
No, that's not a guarantee.
And I don't want to get anybody in the position to expect it and I not be able to deliver it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was just looking through the list, we've got about 15 or 20 that we have done. I know the 8 years I've been on the commission, every year we said, all right, here's your 10,000 you got every year, and we just go from the joint and do it again. So we will, we'll look more into that. But today, let's go ahead and, for time's sake, 10,000 from the joint for Samaritan, and then individual, whatever anybody individual wants to do today.
Mr. Chairman, women in training, they're here. I don't think they're.
Let's get this one first.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I'll get that one. Does anybody else want to do anything for Samaritan? I'll do 2,500 from my individual.
Yes, in my district, 2,500 from my designated.
And then, women in training, I know they have sent something to us, right? Didn't they send us
Yeah,
something?
they actually presented last meeting,
Presented
Mr.
something?
Chairman, yes, sir.
Okay, yeah.
And they're not consistent. I think this is just their second year. And of course, nobody has to help them in terms of describing the impact that they've had with their program. I think all women and men can appreciate what they do. So certainly would like to entertain their request this morning.
What is their request, Vice Chair Sankey? I
I
don't have
believe
it
they
in front of
asked
me.
for 10 on their last visit here.
Yeah, somebody had called me about them this week, and I can't remember who called me. QB Ray called me, that's who it was, you're
I
right.
called you too.
Rhonda called me too, so. So the request is 10,000?
And what was that, what were those funds to be used for?
Yes, ma'am. You want, just real quickly, briefly, just come tell us again? We don't have great memories sometimes, so.
Good morning, me too. Good morning, I'm Adayella Bennett, and this is Elizabeth Johnson-Suller. She's the Board Secretary for Women in Training. I'm the CEO, and our request is for $10,000 to help us continue the work. Well, really, we asked specifically to help fund the 5K race that we're having to support International Day of the Girl on October 7th. But of course, the 5K is to raise money
That's
to do
your
work.
fundraiser.
Right.
So that's what it's for, Florence.
Okay,
It's-
thank
okay,
you.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is everybody okay with doing the 10 from the
What,
joint?
what do we have in the balance? What's our balance on that joint?
40.
Yeah, 140, so after today, it's down, if we do this one,
130.
it'd be 120, if 130 before this one. We run out every year pretty early, so.
Yeah, yeah.
Is everybody okay with doing 10?
I don't have a problem with it.
Fine with that.
I don't have a problem.
Okay. Go ahead, Florence.
We'll also consider a bid award for the re-roofing of the Montgomery County Courthouse. Consider budget change request number 7 to the Central Alabama Sports Commission for the 2023 Montgomery Kickoff, Red Tails Classic, and Camellia Bowl College football games. Consider budget change request number 6 to Alabama State University for the 2023 President's Gala, Labor Day Classic, and the Turkey Day Classic. Consider travel training requests for appraisal, grants department, and the sheriff's office. That's all the items to be considered in the formal session. We'll call on Sheriff Cunningham. He has 2 waived rule items that pertain to changes, temporary changes due to the construction going on in the jail. The first one is the contract with Industry Standard, the food service provider. The second is an MOU with Department of Corrections for laundry services.
Any questions? Oh, I'm sorry. Hey, good morning to everybody. I didn't even speak. I don't know I got to speak when I get up here. So I'm glad to be here today.
Stranger. Well, I guess I'm a stranger.
Yeah, yeah, 'cause I've been looking for you.
Is there any objection to waiving rules for this first item on the food?
Sure, excuse me. Do you have a menu? I was just looking at those prices, and I'm just wondering, what can you get for that dollar amount? Do you have a menu?
Is that like an expensive amount? Is that what you're saying?
No, sir.
Okay, I was going to say, yeah, I'll get
Seems
you a
very
copy of it.
low,
But
yeah.
We're going to change the menu anyway when we move over to Davis Treatment and start cooking over there, because we won't be able to cook the things that we were cooking in ours and then transport it back. So we're going to change a lot of the menus around. So I'll get you a copy of the new ones.
And it was probably me just not understanding. It seems like the higher price is where you actually have yours. I
No,
would say
the
your
lower,
step.
it's the lower price.
That's the lowest price is where.
Is when we're using our labor.
Okay.
Yeah, and the higher prices because they gotta cook, clean, do all that stuff.
Transport too.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, the second one, Derek, on the laundry.
Yeah, we're gonna contract with DOC to do our laundry. I think it's like $1.25, which ain't a whole lot, but we're gonna be doing 3 days a week with them. So we'll be taking our laundry to Elmore.
What would Ted, like the staff that's in your laundry room now during that time, were they just helping us?
No, when they come back with the laundry, they still gotta fold it
Fold it.
and then distribute it.
Okay.
All they're doing is just washing,
Okay.
washing and drying.
Any objection to waiving rules on that item?
No objection there.
And item number 5 is an amendment number 1 to the contract with Regional Produce Distributors for milk and juice at the youth facility.
That's self-explanatory though.
That'll be next agenda on that one.
That's not a waiver rule?
No. That's it.
Okay, since I got the microphone for just a hair before I sit down, y'all, I want to give Wesley Richardson a round of applause. He's my new assistant chief. He's in the back of the room back there. So if y'all don't see me here, he'll be here. So, one of us will be here. And also, I like to say, Kayla, this is her last month with city county personnel. She's been doing all of our testing. I see her sitting here, so y'all, let's give her a round of applause as well. And I'll go take my seat.
Yeah, if you didn't, I need to share with you, if you didn't hear Wesley's talk after he was promoted, it was one of the best talks I've ever heard. And don't you agree with that?
Yeah.
Something we probably need to share with people that have said.
He spoke from his heart.
It was really, really good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Wesley. It was a great choice.
Thank you.
Sure. Plus, we do have a couple other waiver items that we want to address too now, I guess.
Correct.
Okay. One of them is the proposed contract with the Jones Group LLC for governmental relations services. Commissioner Walker had asked to place this on waive rules.
Yeah, and I recommend that, I know we've done a couple of waive rules already today, but I recommend this be placed on waive rule in light of the fact that we need this service to be provided to the commission, since we will soon not have any governmental affairs representation. Additionally, we've historically had the agenda to the contract, it's going from December to December, and that's a bad schedule for business with the Alabama legislature. So if we can go ahead now, and it's the end of August, we're almost rolling into September, so we need somebody in place now, because the conversations need to start now in order that we're prepared to advertise any legislation that we want. We know that that's can be a long, arduous process. So I strongly encourage my colleagues, let's go ahead and waive rules. Let's put this on the agenda today and get somebody in place that can start looking out for our best interest.
Does anybody have an objection to waiving rules for this item?
Mr. Chairman, I spoke with Mr. Jones last night, and I think he kind of used the same rationale that Commissioner Walker has used. But I was still wondering, does it really rise to the level of waiver rule? I mean, because we tend to, I won't say abuse that provision, but we tend to use it, when it doesn't seem to be appropriate. So I'm just wondering about that. And then I'm also wondering about the increase from, again, I'm not comparing the two entities, the ones who currently have the contract and Mr. Jones' group, but there's a kind of a big difference in the price. Can we talk about that, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, how big a difference, could I ask that question, what's the difference from where we at currently to what is proposed?
We were paying our current lobbyist about $77,000 a year, and the proposal is right at $99,000. Michael did a little research because you had raised that question. I'm not going to say it's extensive, but as to what the going rate for lobbyists, what we could look at.
What I did is I went around and I called some of the counties that were similar sized, and the going rate that I could find is roughly $10,000 a month. That's contacting Jefferson, Huntsville, Madison County, Mobile County, Baldwin County, places like that.
So this is on par, a little less.
It's a little less, actually.
Mr. Chairman, that was one of my, when I saw this has to be a compromise or some kind of reduction, because the proposal that I received initially was right at 120,000.
Yep.
My objection was the same. I thought we were paying them 60,000, and it was like that. It was double, was what was in my mind. I thought we were paying the ones currently. But of course, the services that were being proposed in this new proposal, or they exceed the services that we were receiving from the current ones. And I think this reduction by $20,000 fits in for me.
Yeah, I'd asked the Jones Group to look at that before they came back to us.
And Commissioner Sankey, nobody dislikes waive rules
More than right.
more than me, and I'm on record as saying that. I did propose this during our last regular meeting, so this isn't new information. This is something we've talked about, and I did ask that it be put on the agenda for today, but there was some discussion, and the answer was no. But since then, the circumstances have radically changed with our current group not planning to renew. So we need somebody, and we need somebody in place. But, so this isn't new information just being sprung on us today. I did bring it up at the last meeting, if that helps any. I just strongly encourage us to go ahead and take care of this.
Well, I yield to the lady in the green jacket.
Thank you.
Okay, and then the next one, we have consider a budget change request, number 8 for security equipment and fencing at Montgomery Whitewater. This was where a local company came in at our request to provide additional fencing and metal detector type equipment. About a month before Whitewater opened, we had the Dable shooting, and it really brought our attention that, hey, we need to increase the security at the park. We had the Sheriff's Department, the Montgomery Police Department, even Federal Marshal involved in it, along with the Montgomery Rescue Team, firefighters, Rescue Montgomery Fire Department come in. They did a 2 or 3 day assessment. We met 2 or 3 times. They came up with a solution. We contacted some local companies to see who could do it, at what price. And all we're doing today is asking to waive rules so we can pay our local company the money for the work they've already done about 60 days ago now. So that's what we're asking. Is there any objection to waiving rules on this item?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
of course, we all have a duty as far as being good stewards of taxpayers' money. I'm sure that each of you would agree with that. And I asked it's Jeffrey Guston.
Guston.
I think he was handling some of the finances. He was providing updates and so forth in terms of the cost of the project and other financial obligations that the corporate district has incurred trying to get this project moving forward. And I just received that on yesterday. I requested it 2 weeks ago, just because I feel like I'm obligated, like the rest of us, I'm sure, to kind of know where the money is going. And I really hadn't had an opportunity to really digest that and appreciate just, what we're really doing as it relates to, I'll say, I don't think it's our financial obligation, but certainly we have a role to play. So I'm a little concerned that I haven't had time to really digest these numbers that was given to me yesterday when I requested them 2 weeks ago.
Well, today, all we're doing is asking that we can waive rules so we can pay this local company the money for the work they've already completed and done. If we don't waive rules today, basically, we're gonna delay them 2 more weeks until our next meeting before we approve for them to be paid, and then it's gonna take another week to get a check for them. So I'm just asking that we help this local company who came in and helped up and stepped up. If I've done work, I expect people to pay me. I expect people to pay me in a timely manner. And they stepped in, did the work back in May, and I think it was May when they did it, when the shootings happened. And we just need to pay them, and I would ask we could go ahead and waive rules today, and let's pay this company instead of delaying 2 more weeks to pay them, because 2 weeks from now, it's gonna come on the agenda for 2 weeks. We're gonna vote on it either today or 2 weeks.
Yes, sir. Well, let me ask you something else now, because we're taking this, where's this 400,000 coming from?
This is coming from our construction fund. I'll let Cheryl attack that if she wants to, but the Whitewater is from the construction fund that we have.
Mr. Chairman, I have no objection.
Yeah. Well, before we talk about who's objecting and who's not, let me ask another question, please. Cheryl, since you're talking, you have the floor. What about the rental tax? How much do we have currently in that particular, I won't say pot of money, that's not appropriate when you talk about money like that. That particular fund.
Well, we call it, it's a deferred rental tax. I believe it's in right around 7 million, somewhere between 6 and 7 million. But that has been reserved for debt service. In this year's budget, if you recall, 24, we will make our first debt service. It's right at 2 million a year. So we will pull 2 million out.
But-
We haven't used the rental tax for anything else.
Yes,
It
ma'am.
was-
But it could be used to satisfy some of the financial obligations with Whitewater. According to what Riley Rober said, I think he's an attorney working with us on that. That's nothing that say we couldn't use money from that particular fund to satisfy our the financial obligation of the corporate district.
Not to my knowledge. I think I had mentioned that that would be a legal
Yes, ma'am.
question to
And I-
look at.
And I did ask him, yes, ma'am.
And so, in my opinion, this expenditure is a little different in that we asked that it be done. It wasn't a part of the original project. And I think that's one reason it's come up like this. And when Florence had mentioned the budget change, I said, well, we do have money over here in the construction fund. We didn't have, like I said, when we did the 23 budget, we put $500,000 over there to be used as needed. And at this point in August, we haven't used it for anything else.
Thank you. So, one more question, Mr. Chairman? Megan?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Also, the assets that the corporate district have, all the buildings out there, the entire project, isn't that worth something? They have assets, right? I mean, we have the channels, we have the restaurant, we have a number of things out there. So those represent assets, correct?
Yes.
And
Those are assets owned by the district.
Yes, ma'am. So the district could actually, just hypothetically, the district could actually borrow money against those assets. That's just a hypothetical. I'm not
Well,
suggesting.
they actually already have borrowed money. We borrowed it on
Right.
behalf of the district, so
But-
it's got a bond issue already.
It's already in Harvard.
Yeah, but it
against
does
that
belong to
project.
it belongs to the district and not the county, just for clarification.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. I always enjoy talking with you. I'm educated when I talk to you. Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Thank you for the time. I don't have a problem with waiving rules. I appreciate, I just think we need information. Would you kind of commit to maybe giving us updates from time to time in writing in terms of where we are, what the financial obligations are, what this commission tend to obligate the taxpayers to as relates to the project? Just something in writing from time to time.
I do, and I have, and I've given it to you in a meeting. Of course, it was in
Yes, sir.
a stack of papers.
But
You
what
didn't
what
see
y'all
it.
provided
But
yesterday.
I will,
it
going
was-
forward, I'll make sure that when I give you the information, I'll make sure that you're aware of what it is and
Yes, sir.
and discuss it with you. So,
Thank you, sir.
Florence, we can move on then.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Susan Kennedy and Terry Reynolds.
Good morning, Commissioners. Happy to see everybody. Rhonda, I just wanted to say, Commissioner Walker, I wanted to say that I appreciated the prayer this morning.
Thank you.
I've been a little stressed for various reasons, and it was very, very nice this morning, so thank you. We have 2 items for next meeting. One is moving forward on the sewer allocation. So we have been working with the Montgomery Waterworks and Sanitary Sewer Board to get started because, as we know, the ARPA money has a time limit on it. And so the Water Board has been very clear and urgent about getting, if we are going to do this, if the city and the county are going to do this, they have to get started because of the time limitation on the funds. They are nervous that these are large projects and they want to get started. So rather than do a full contract for the full, all of the services now, we can do a phased approach. So when we can get started and agree on these terms. We're going back and forth on the contract now. We've sent it to them, they've sent it to us, and some of the terms were just not acceptable based on their fears that the money would run out in 2026, or the end of 2026. So so our idea was, and this is for y'all's consideration, is to phase it. So the first phase of the contract will be up to $5 million. It will include all of the neighborhoods that have been designated. So it's not choosing one or the other. It's, as Bill Henderson said to some of y'all and me too, it's like there are 7 phases, and it's like there are 7 race cars, and we're gonna start all 7 race cars and start them all in the race. Now, some may go out in front of others depending on land acquisition and, various other factors, but it's best to start them all. So this resolution would allow the county, the city will consider the same one today, this afternoon. The resolution would allow the county to begin the contracting process for the engineering of all neighborhoods and all phases, and for other services like appraisals and identifying property that has to be acquired in order to move forward on actually putting the sewer in the ground. So that, we don't have final estimates on what that will cost, but everyone agrees that it will not exceed $5 million. And so your resolution today, that you can vote on next week or next meeting, says up to $5 million for the engineering services and the initial moving toward property acquisition and identification and sort of that legal stuff they've got to do, the appraisals and boundary lines and titles and those kinds of things.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
if I may, Susan, at the outset, I made it clear, and I think it was clear to everybody, that we're not gonna spend all of this money on sewer. We're just not. So when the money that's been allocated run out, it's out. I don't want anybody to have the expectation that, or enter into a contract for money that we don't have. If it hasn't been allocated, then we don't need to be contracting for it. I think the mayor said it to begin with. I know it's always been my understanding. And we knew that this project was, if you were to do it right, $100 million.
Oh, yes, sir.
And that's
Absolutely.
way more than we had. And so we're not going to spend all the money on it. The money that's been allocated is all that there is. And today I'm proposing, and I've been talking to the commissioners here, the money that has not been allocated be returned, taken out of that pool, period, brought back to the commission, and the funds that are not spent on the projects that we've identified, those funds also be returned to the county, and the city gets their portion back. The sooner we get to that, the better, because as you've stated, we have a limited time on which to spend this money. There are districts in Montgomery that has not received one dime, one benefit, not a sewer, not anything from this money, and nothing allocated that's going to be spent that way. And a part of asking for that money to come back to the commission, the remainder of that is have it divided among the commissioners for their districts individually, and have the commissioners utilize that money in their districts. That's what we want to do, and we want to get that done. That's what I want to do, and I thought I had you never know about this commission, but I thought I had a consensus among the members that that's what they were interested in doing.
Well, we certainly work at the direction of the commission, and these funds are the ones that have been allocated for sewer. So we're not asking today,
Well,
this resolution won't change any funds that have previously been allocated to sewer. These are only the dollars that this commission and the city council have allocated to sewer to date.
I wanted to make that clear.
Yes, absolutely.
And I'd like to get the input, public input from my other commissioners on what I just proposed.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes, sir.
I'll start with the last thing Commissioner Harris said. I think early in this process, I was all in favor of splitting the money 5 ways, and I think all of us perhaps, maybe not all of us, but some of us would have been very happy to have had the privilege of taking, $8 million, $9 million each, and doing whatever we could do in our district. And I don't think we would have had any problem hiring engineers and that type of stuff. So we've been kind of dragging this process on. So whatever money may be left, maybe we could waive rules today and decide that, hey, let's split it 5 ways and let's go to our communities and do the best we can with what we have left. In terms of the sewer, I talked about sewer 2 years ago, one trying to spend $100 million, just wanted to get a few phases done in Madison Park. I said that ARPA money certainly fit the guidelines of Treasury when it comes to long-term objectives. Sewer fits it better, the definition of U.S. Treasury, better than anything I can think of for long-term objectives where you don't have to come back and reinvest time after time. And I was told, wait on the bilateral, the bipartisan infrastructure law. Why spend the ARPA money? The bipartisan infrastructure law has passed, and we still don't have not one thing for the folks in Madison Park when it comes to sewer. They've been waiting 20 or 30 years. If we just took the taxes that they paid, we probably could get this thing. So, you know, maybe at some point somebody will come up with something where we can just get the taxes that these people pay back into their neighborhood so they don't be begging year after year. And so I'm just wondering at this point, since we've dragged it on and on and on, should we just let the United States Treasury handle it from here? Should we just let the federal government come in and just tell us where we ought to go from here and whether or not we've managed what we've already spent according to Treasury guidelines? That's what I would want to do.
Any other comments? All right, do we want to move forward with this agenda item to next agenda?
And I'm not really sure what we're doing with this resolution, to be honest with who. We're trying to contract with some of the people who've already given us data. You know, we've spent a lot of money already, it seems, to get information from the engineers and how they divided the project into different phases. They've already told us how much the phases would cost.
This is what that's for. When you came and looked at those maps,
Yes.
and you drew a line around what Madison Park is, and the other elected officials in those
Yeah.
areas designated the areas, those costs, this is the first phase of that.
Is it engineering?
This is
cost?
starting.
Yeah.
This is starting the project.
So this engineering costs and stuff like that?
They have to do, so we had an engineering study, which was pretty cheap, you know, based on what sewer costs, right? And so we found out which neighborhoods were the highest, because Treasury requires us, as you know, Commissioner Sankey, to choose neighborhoods that are at the highest level of public health risk, right? So that first engineering study identified those neighborhoods, identified Madison Park, identified Old Selma Road, and also identified Hunter Station. So those neighborhoods were priority neighborhoods according to the county-wide engineering study. Those neighborhoods were chosen as public health risks, so they would reach the highest priority for the county. So, you know, right, if you're gonna do sewer for the whole county, that's $100 million. Well, obviously, we didn't have those kinds of funds, and so what we did was, let's go, you know, we had to, according to Treasury guidance, choose neighborhoods that were at public health risk. So that initial engineering study identified those neighborhoods. Madison Park was one of those neighborhoods. Hunter Station and Old Selma Road were also included in that study as high-risk public health challenges. So now, once you've identified the neighborhoods, then you have to actually start putting the sewer in the ground, right? That's what everybody's talking about. When's the backhoe going to show up, right? So this is the first phase of the backhoe showing up. And so this is an initial phase. Like I said, all 7 phases will start, like all 7 race cars will begin. This is the beginning of putting sewer in the ground. And so we have phased it so that we can get started. It is very difficult to negotiate a contract with the Montgomery Water Works all the way into 2026 with all the contingencies that can happen in a sewer project like this. So in order for them to get started and all the lawyers and their board to feel comfortable getting started, we're eating the elephant a bite at a time in a contract. So this authorizes your representatives, and you know, the lawyers have seen these contracts from both the city and the county, this authorizes your representatives to begin to finalize that contract so that they can begin the work to put the sewer in the ground. And you mentioned the bipartisan infrastructure law, that additional funds, the additional funds for Madison Park that are coming from ADEM, that is from the bipartisan infrastructure law. So you will see $30,000 per household from the bipartisan infrastructure law in Madison Park.
So we can move this to the next agenda, and then over the next 2 or 3 weeks, we can decide, when we reconvene again, if we're going to do something different than what we planned, then this would be a no vote, and then, but we do need to put it on the next agenda and vote for it, so,
We do need direction.
yeah, exactly.
Any comments on my proposal in terms of the funds?
Well, I'll note that it was you mentioned that you had talked to the commission, and that was the first that I had heard of it. I don't know if any other commissioners, maybe you've spoken to the other commissioners, I don't know. But I definitely think it's something we all need to chime in on and make a decision, and perhaps at the next meeting, you can present to us the specific, and you've given us the list of money that's already allocated, already spent, already allocated, and still outstanding. And maybe we could review that again and make a decision.
And I'll say the city has done something similar to that. And there, one of the things that was, I guess, floating around out there that had not been voted on by the commission, but was voted on by the city, was a concept of a Montgomery Thrive Fund so that people could apply. So you could each have your own Montgomery Thrive Fund, and folks could apply for those funds, and you can split it up however you want to. And I see Commissioner, I see you shaking your head. Let me know, like, we can do it any way you want to do it.
Yeah.
I guess that's my point. You don't have to do it like the city, but they have done something similar, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and we should do our own.
However you want to do it. We work at the direction of the commission.
Okay, so that will be on the next agenda, and we can decide on that. And then the next one is the contract with Levitate, extending the contract.
Yeah, that's the only other thing that would be up next, and that is a month to month. You can get rid of us any month you want to get rid of us.
That's
So,
very kind on y'all to do that. You don't, very professional for y'all to do that. You don't have to do that. but
we
thank you
hope
for
we'll see we hope the end of the road is coming, right?
Yeah.
So we want to be here in support of whatever you need, but we also want you to be able to say, hey, I think we're good.
Okay.
Thank you very
So
much.
that'll be next agenda too, Florence, because we're getting tight on time here. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
We've got 8 through 12, 13, all of these are resolutions about relocation of polling places. We've all looked at them as commissioners, hopefully, at our each district where the polling place has changed. You want to bring Alexander up and let her kind of quickly say what?
If you are, she can certainly answer
if we
any
got some
questions.
Yeah, and everybody's got a packet too on your, all commissioners on your.
Good morning.
Change.
Right, yeah, I gotta admit, though, the first time I knew anything about this was when I saw it in the Thursday memo, so in the future, appreciate a heads up on when you're gonna change the precinct in my district.
Yes, sir. Well, good morning.
Good morning.
So I'll briefly go through the changes, and I'll start by Commission District. As Commissioner Harris stated, in Commission District 1, just one small change. It'll still be at Huntington College, but they're moving it from the drum theater to the gym, which just changes the address from 1125 East Fairview Avenue to 1155 East Fairview Avenue.
Alexander,
Yes.
Can I interrupt you a second?
Yes.
One, I want to say you're doing a great job. I've had so many
Thank you.
great comments about
Thank you.
the job you're doing. Each of us have the changes. I'm a little concerned about naming them off in public today.
Okay.
Because of the city election next week.
Right.
People are hearing, oh, my polling place has changed, and then we have that controversy and confusion a little bit.
Right.
Would it be okay with you if we have any questions, any individual commissioner has a question about, like on mine, I understand where it's going, I understand that completely. Does any commissioners have any questions? Commissioner
Well,
Sankey?
yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm again, not to be, disagreeable, But I don't think discussing this today going to have any impact on intelligent people as relates to the city election. Now,
Not a word about
the-
intelligent ones.
now the next, now the next question is, you know, like Commissioner Harris, I'm concerned too that we're just seeing some of this. Now, were there any specific obstacles that hindered you from bringing this to us in a more timely manner? That you have any challenges that we may be able to correct or fix?
Here comes the judge.
This is, I'm sorry, and just for me, this is really old information. I've known about this for a very long time. This is a fabulous, I appreciate everything you're doing, yeah, so I'm a little bit confused, because this is all old information.
Yes, same to me, I've known
We
about it
had
too, so.
had it for a while, and I think the county attorney asked us to hold off on it until after
okay.
the municipal election cycle, and then I believe once we needed to, saw we were running up on 180 days, we had to have this finalized within 180 days for the primary. And so that'll be, if you all move it along to the next meeting, it'll be 185 days, so we'll make the change, but we were just asked to wait.
I mean, this is the first time I've experienced this, and this isn't how it worked before. Before, I got some information telling me that one of my polling places was going to change, and then I was told where it was going to change. I found this out when I got this Thursday memo on Friday, or Thursday, last Thursday. Nobody, they might have known, because they might have been, and in the past, I've actually participated in identifying a new polling place and worked on it in that manner. Maybe that's how they know. But what Commissioner Sankey and I are saying is that there should be a process when you're going to do that, when you're considering it, we should be notified. And I wasn't notified.
Yes, sir. For Commission District 1, you're right. The other ones were brought to you all before, but for this particular one, when we were searching for precincts for the municipal election, we got that call from Huntington stating that it would no longer be in the theater, it would be in the gym. So I apologize for that, for not getting that information to you, but it was one small change, and that information was not discussed.
Believe me,
But
when you change a polling place, it's not small.
I
I mean,
apologize.
I've gone through that before, where you have people going one place thinking that's where they're supposed to vote.
Well, we'll make sure we have adequate signage out. And again, when the information goes out upon your
But
approval.
if they ask me,
I
you know what I
understand.
mean? And I'm going to say this place, you know, instead of telling them, well, it's about to change, because I have that information. So it's important that I know,
I
that I
understand.
know when you're considering it. That's all I'm saying.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
Well, no, I just want to
Yeah.
clarify, and maybe I owe an apology. We talked about the additional precinct in my district. I want to be sure that I say that, because I don't want to offend anyone, and because you do good work. But what, other than the precincts, what else are we saying with these particular resolutions? Is this all that is? Just adding or changing precincts? Is that all this is about?
Yes, there are changing locations, additional precincts, and there's one for a name change in Commission District 3.
Okay, and so in terms of the maps and the boundaries, that has already been done some time ago when we voted either for or against
Yes.
the boundaries based upon the 2020
Yes, and that
census.
information was provided to me by Lewis Hines from Alabama State.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
So Florence, 8 through 15 will be next agenda,
Right.
all of those together. We got 3 more, I think, on there, right?
3 more items.
Thank you, J.C. Thank you, Alexander.
Number 16 is the GIS Master Agreement with Keat Consulting Services for GIS in the Mapping Department. If you've got any questions, Todd Grant is here and can answer those questions.
Any questions for Todd? That'll be next agenda.
Item 17 is a contract with Bradley Plumbing and Heating to modify exhaust systems at the Montgomery County Detention Center Building 2. Kendall
questions
can
for
explain that briefly.
Is there any questions for Kendall on that?
Let me ask you a question,
Yes, sir.
please. You said they were the lowest bidder. I didn't see any other bids listed.
We received three quotes because it's under $50,000. I have those. I can give you those
Yes, sir. It would be nice to have them,
in the package.
please.
I understand.
Yes, sir. I was just confused. I said, well, maybe I can't pull it up. I was about to tear up my computer trying to figure out what the other bids were. But, you know, they were the lowest bid. I'd like to see who else bid it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
So that'd be next agenda, Florence.
Item number 18 is a bid award to Buffalo Rock for vending machine and micro market services.
Any questions about that one? Buffalo Rock came in very aggressive, being in the soft drink business. That's 25%. It's very aggressive commissions and vending, so that'll be on next agenda.
Right, thank you.
Florence, on the general information item, due to time today and not being something we got to book today, let's wait on that one. Sheriff, you don't mind waiting on that one a little bit later? So,
Well, That's a no-brainer, you see? Don't you think?
what's that?
The fair.
Well,
No,
that's,
you weren't here last time.
I thought we was
Oh,
gonna
I'm
get some
sorry, I didn't-
research on that.
Excuse me.
we got two no-brainer responses, so.
There ain't
we'll
no
hold
more
off.
no-brainers on this one.
We'll hold off on that one till next meeting, but we've got, it's 10:02, we're gonna take about a 3-minute break, so say 10:06, we'll start the formal session.